Hello everyone, welcome back to Learner's Buzz. So as you know, in this series of videos, we are exploring the process of language acquisition by the young learners and how the teachers can help them. As you know, so far we have explored various approaches to teaching of phonics to the young learners, and then we also discussed some of the fundamentals which teachers must keep in mind while teaching the young learners in this series. Now, today we are going to explore the process of language acquisition by the young learners. Language acquisition of the second language. There is a sequential process that the learner goes through when he or she acquires the second language. And today, in this video, we will try to explore various stages of language acquisition by the young learners. I would prefer to define it in a very simple way. The process of learning second language is not like actually, building some extended rooms to a pre-existing structure. It requires a complete internal, rebuilding of the walls. There is a whole science behind it, and it's very important for the instructors to know how those walls are to be rebuilt. So the first stage is called the preproductive stage, which is the beginning level. So at this stage, the learner should not be forced to speak the language, even the words. If the fluency is there from the environment, it's all right. But there should not be any enforcement by the teacher, by the system, to speak, the language already. At this stage, the learner understands the language, the meanings of the words by gestures, by contextualizing the word, and that's all right. Since we are talking in the context of Indian student, so at this stage, although the student will be perhaps already familiar with more than hundreds of words and also knowing their meaning, understanding it, but they may not be very comfortable while expressing, speaking, in the language itself. So what I mean to say is they may not be comfortable while communicating the language at that stage. The teacher needs to have patience, parents need to have patience and understand that gradually the child will acquire, will express, but forcing the child and making him or her uncomfortable in the peer group can be very damaging. The next stage of language acquisition process is the early production stage, where the student acquires a bit of understanding of the words, sentences, various expressions, phrases in the second language, and is able to comprehend them and also express them. In theory, it actually correlates with the telegraphic speech, which we understand, in the language acquisition. There is a stage when the toddlers start to speak. So we technically call it telegraphic speech. So even for the second language learner, though the child, may not be that young, but since this is the second language the child is learning, we almost call it telegraphic speech, because there is a possibility the student will be able to express, but here and there there may be structural issues. The next stage is the speech emergence stage, and at this point the learner is able to comprehend and also speak almost complete sentences. The learner is able to understand almost a few thousand expressions, words, phrases at this stage. Although you may not feel that it is so, but yes, the expression may be limited, but the child has acquired that much of competency at this stage. And the important development at this stage is the learner is no longer intimidated by the second language use, which means he or she has acquired a certain level of comfort with the use of the language. The next stage is intermediate fluency. By now, the learner has acquired a certain lexical range, so different complicated expressions, questions, variety of sentence structures, he or she is able to understand. And the learner can more or less quite coherently express what he or she wants to say. And the last stage, when our learner is already past the high school, is the advanced proficiency stage. And at this point, the learner, in some cases, may be as fluent as the first language learner, and is able to express and comprehend almost the same level of complexity in language as the first language learner. So in today's video, the only objective was to share and discuss the process of language acquisition which the learner goes through, since English language acquisition is one of the most fundamental aspects of the education, especially in context of India and Indian student. So it is very, very important that since the language is all across the curriculum, so we must understand the necessity of proficiency the student needs to acquire by the end of school life. So these were some of the tips which I wanted to share with you. If you have any suggestions, any comments which you would like to share with us, please do share. Thank you very much. Happy teaching.